Okay, very brief look at a number of pairs, or rather just one pair actually, to indulge my monomania on US dollar yen. I'll cover a few others. I think most of the ideas from last weekend worked out except for crude oil. I'm not going to deal with that anymore. It was low conviction. I shouldn't have dealt with it in any case, as I didn't have a clear view, and I have no understanding at all of the fundamentals of the oil market. So I'm not going to look at them again. I'll just deal with what I feel I have some confidence in, and that is offering an edge, and that is US dollar yen. We have now, at the end of September, monthly closes on all charts. And this is working out with the idea I've been running for months now of the kind of rounded bottom and up move swing thing going on. The issue on, first of all, let me say that at the current stage, nothing has changed. This remains bullish on any level, basically. Now, the fundamental thing that's, well, not fundamental, the issue that we have going on here on a technical basis is that there are 5 waves into here, in my opinion, and we've had a small 3-wave correction. Now, that can be marked down as 2, and now we are in wave 1 of 3, 2 of 3, or something, and then 3 of 3, and we will see a strong bullish advance into next week and beyond that will run for a number of months, probably. A number of weeks, anyway. The other view on this is that that's the count on the 1 hour, if anyone wants to see it. The other view on this, on the 4 hour again, is that we have 7 waves up, which is corrective. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's a corrective 3x3, and we would see a downward move to a new low under 108 now. Now, there's no evidence of that. There are 2 possibilities, either the 1-2-1-2 that I just showed, or the 7-wave swing, which will bring this back down over the next few weeks. Both views are open at the current development, though the one that should be given, the one that I'm going to give the advantage to is the bullish case, because on the monthly, the scenario is bullish, so I'm not going to overlook that here. I'm going to focus on that, and I will adjust if it decides to opt in for the 7 and down. But there's no evidence yet that the 7 is going to take place. There's no downward push. So because 2 scenarios are open, I'm sticking with the bullish one on the larger scale. So into next week, there's possibly a wedge growing up here too. It's one scenario to look at. But the move down from the 27th into Friday was just 3 waves again. This can be taken as an impulsive advance. So I'm going to look for upside into next week. It has the the structure and the opening in the interpretation where it can take on a very, very bullish move if the market participants decide to enter into it and advance it. So it's there to advance anyway. Okay, a few other things. The dollar index, finally the small trader contrarian figures have been boosted in that. For months and months they were down under 20, and now we're up to about 50 or so. So the market, the small trader numbers have finally lifted with the price, and it's on its way somewhere or other. Now, the issue with Euro US dollar, I was looking for another low in this, and I still can because there's no violation of this point yet. I'm going to continue to look for it and favor another down move in this. The issue so far is that, well, I cannot judge this to be a completed swing yet. I would need to see a violation of this area to judge it as that, and then it would look like a 3-wave move overall, which of course is corrective. There's a bit of weakness on the monthly close in Euro US dollar, but nothing major. yet. We may see a bit of a sideways move. Some Elliott Wave traders are looking at this as wave 4 on the weekly. So that would imply 1, 2, completed 3, wave 4, and wave 5 to a new high, and then a bigger 3-wave correction like that. I feel there is not a reason to be bearish more than viewing it as a corrective bearish move. So I'm going to look for more downside into next week. We do have the violation here. So let's see what happens. Another Elliott Wave trader I like to follow is looking at this as a possible triangle. A very good guy, Wave Pattern Traders. You may have seen him around. He is a quite popular site. In any case, for now, I'm looking to the downside, barring a violation here, which will start to confirm that this is just a simple 3-wave move. Okay, the downward move in cable worked out, but it became very choppy, and I was looking at a 1-2-1-2 here with a wedge, but we did not see a bigger correction, and this ultimately turned into a 7-wave move here. Now this is holding up really well up here. I'm going to continue to favor the downside for now. But given the whole corrective look of it, I'm not so bearish about this. I'm just going to give the advantage and look for downside opportunities for now. It didn't take on that big bearish look that it had about here, possibly, as the development. Sorry, one moment. I wanted to look at, I mean, on the monthly it is turning up. So we have that space to run into up above, but looking at the movement on the daily, which is what counts, so far it looks rather corrective to the downside. And I'm going to look at the COT figures in a moment. Just the pair that did work out well to the downside was Aussie US dollar, which had the exposure with the extreme COT figures. That's my current view on this. I'm looking to the downside further to complete this swing. And then you can take that as a, well, I'll have to see how it develops, frankly, but the downside is favored at this stage. There is a daily hammer there, so we'll see how that develops. The whole move on Aussie US dollar is just basically 3 waves, depending how you look at it. There are a number of ways to look at it. That's not the issue. I mean, traders all the time have different counts, but come to the same conclusion. And in this case, it's bearish from a 3-wave move, basically from 2016. Now, on the COT report, surprisingly, traders committed more to the long side in the Australian dollar. It was already quite extreme last week. It's become more so this week. And if you go on the 4-year chart, you can go all the way back to 2008 actually, and you can see we are at the highest commitments to the long side since 2013 and 12. So as a contrary signal with the large traders, that's been working out well so far to the downside, and I am going to look for this to continue down as well. Now going to look at what's committed with cable. For the first time since 2015 briefly, and really since 2014, traders have just started to move to the positive side there. You have the large speculators, 5,000 contracts pointing north, and it is still in that area where some type of contrarian swing can take place. Now, the start of this cable swing is corrective, in my opinion. So there is a bullish count that can be made with all this overlapping here. I don't want to get too bearish on this. I mean, clearly there's a divergence situation here, but I don't yet see the price movement, and I don't have the entry signals to suggest that it's going to take on a very bearish slant. The monthly too is okay to look up. So in the short term, I'm going to look to the downside, but if I see a clear type of like correction overall, because this is just looking like 3, and I want to see how this develops here. If it does give a buying opportunity a bit lower, I will look to take it as well, because this can turn to the upside. I'm not going to get bullish on the US dollar yet. It needs to show more development. I'm more bearish on the Australian US dollar at this stage, but on cable and Euro US dollar, considering how they've started the down moves, it looks like they could be corrective and put in further advances as well. So back to the COT report, Australian dollar surprising, British pound is starting to, it's at that zero bound level like with the US dollar where it can make a turn. So I'm wary of that. More traders moved into the euro again. No fundamental change there, or at least no trading signal off of that. The Australian dollar is the one with the trading signal. New Zealand dollar still basing around 0, and gold and silver, not much change. And the dollar index is still at about minus 6,000. Okay, there will be a trade to come, I think, to the downside in euro pound. I went over this last weekend. It's looking like a 5-wave decline has been put into euro pound. And as I mentioned, on the big count from July 2015 has been completed into August of this year. And I am looking for this to put in a correction here of some size. Who knows how big it'll be? No one knows at this stage. And then to form another downward move. And I'm looking for a move back into about 0.84 or so, this region. So this should offer up a good trade over the coming weeks. If we can see a correction here following this 5th wave, some 3-wave bounce in some manner, I have no idea how it's going to develop, but there should be a trade to the downside there. Gold, that's an ugly close on gold. Given the bullishness in US dollar yen, or rather given a bearish yen view, there's going to be a bearish gold view as well. So no change there. The silver ID, I talked about this last weekend, that does not look good either. The monthlies are still pointing down. And finally, Bitcoin. All I want to say about Bitcoin at this stage, because I don't have the energy to repeat myself too much. The new thing is that on the monthly candle is trying to close as a big hanging man. Which hanging man candles where they've got these long wicks, relatively small tops, and if they become impactful when they appear at the top of trends, at the top of moves. So if we can get a close on Sunday for a hanging man candle like this, or at least a weak candle looking like this, there will be a turn for it to, it will suggest weakness to come in Bitcoin. So a close here about 4,300 or so, or 44 even, something like this, as long as there's still a kind of like red top. We can see traders sell into this upwards towards 47 in the next month, in October, and then see this reverse down. Now, looking at the daily, I went over this more last weekend. It is open to a 3-wave type of move here. So if it puts in the signal and kind of tops out here in the coming days or weeks, and it shows vulnerability, there will be a trade to the downside there. Very similar, if you look on the 4-hour, I went over this last weekend, situations like this with perfect three-wave moves and then weakness at the end of them. And the same with this one, little three-wave move, weakness at the end off the shoulder there, and again off the shoulder. Those are ideal situations. So if this happens to form on Bitcoin, coupled with the monthly candle and all of the fundamental stuff about China, miners, all that stuff, it will open a pathway back towards about 3,300 or so. Okay, if you're bearish on US dollar Swedish krona, the count at this stage is 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I would say. 4 and 5. You want to see this reverse and continue lower on the next high, probably. You could also make a case that it's wave 4 of wave 3, but it would need to turn around. That would be 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5. But in any case, with this type of pair, I would look for the downside still. And I would work at this stage the safer view of this being wave 4. There's no change in that, in my opinion. The US dollar itself will have to prove itself that it's actually making a more major low. Because I can work it in wave 4 now. There are a bunch of counts you can do with this. You can do 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5. No, forget that, that's rubbish. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. Yeah, I would say there are about 3 counts right now on this. Probably the preferable one is into wave 4 and then one more low. I mean, the monthly is obviously trying to base here. But I mean, if you remember back in 2002, it had this kind of sideways pattern here. It looked like it was trying to base, and then the subsequent candles over the next 1, 2, 3, 4 months showed weakness and suggested a continuation. So I will be watching for that as well, because the basing candle for September is small. It's not a major type of thing. And yes, we are coming down here, but we were coming down there too. There are a lot of similarities between these advances. Right there, from 92 to 2001, and from 2008 to 2017 January. A lot of similarities there in terms of structure, composite, shape, time. So I would just keep this in mind. The dollar moves have started correctively, and there's no evidence yet of a major trend change. The trend at this point from January is to the downside. There's all that Trump tax stuff about 2 or 3 trillion underfunded, so the US has some problems, and at this stage I would not want to be bullish the US dollar. You see a lot of hedge funds, well, one hedge fund in particular, Hedgeye, making a big deal about the dollar, about the highs in the stock market. But if your currency is cracking, It's not going to be that much fun. All right, I'll leave it there. So the main one basically is Aussie US dollar to the downside. See if we get further developments on Euro US dollar and pounds to the downside, barring violations. And principally US dollar yen to the upside with the very bullish open counts favored there. And we'll see a Bitcoin on Sunday night how it closes. Okay, bye.